Hello everyone, welcome to Jennifer's Sewing and Crochet. Today we're going to talk about how we're going to start joining our blocks for the Sparklers Quilt Block. We'll be joining it as Quilt As You Go, and I will be using a method that I found on a YouTube video by Pattern Pool TV. She has amazing tutorials, and that will be what I'll be using to join our blocks. I have went ahead and quilted the original block and a second block so I can show you how we join them. In previous videos I talked about we would be quilting them with free motion quilting rulers, but that I was not able to do that, and previous videos explain why. I have since quilted the blocks stitch in the ditch, and on the rectangle pieces I just did a X through them. I did not quilt the center piece because I want all my quilting in the back to blend in, so I just quilted with a black thread. I did not want black thread through the center or white thread to show up on the back, so I just left that plain. I can always tack maybe a button right in the center of it later, or maybe like a, I don't know, a satin ribbon or something, a satin ribbon rose in the center, or just leave it however. So I tried to do the method that she has, Pattern Pool TV has in her video. She has it where your top strip is a 1-inch strip. So I cut the 1-inch strips, and then that her back strip was 1 3/8. But in mine, where I first tried it, I did the 1 3/8 inch, and you can see here that it is very, very, even if you press that seam open, it is, she recommends that you use a 1/4 inch seam, but it is just so close that I'm not comfortable with that. So I will be actually cutting my backing strips to 1 1/2 inches and then folding them in half and pressing them like she recommends that you do. I think I will also be using, instead of a regular 1/4 inch, sorry, I'm out of frame. Instead of a regular 1/4 inch foot seam that she recommends that you use to join, I think I'm going to use a scant 1/4 inch, so it's just a little bit smaller than the 1/4 inch. That way I know exactly that when I join the pieces together, it's going to be perfect. At least I hope that is. Let's go ahead and give it a whirl, and I'll adjust the camera and we'll get to it. Okay, so in her video, she recommended, or she used a technique where she joined with a washable glue. I tried it on this first part and I really didn't like it. I guess it's just preference, but to me, I prefer pins, so I'm going to just do it that way. She also recommends that you cut your strip a bit longer than what your actual block length is, or block width, and that is so you can do a little tab at the top, and that is just so it's something to start sewing on before you get to the actual block, so you don't pucker up the edge of the block. I've had that happen a few times, So I'm just going to line my 1.5 inch strip that I have pressed in half. And I am really sorry if this is a little bit hard to see. I know it is since it's black on black. Please bear with me. So I am just doing my raw edge, and I am just pinning through the strip piece and the top layer. I'm not pinning all the way to the back, or which would be the front of the block, so I don't get a pucker there also. I learned that by watching other videos on YouTube. So about every 3-4 inches, I'm just going to put a little pin there. And make sure I get that straight. It's a little hard to see. Again, I'm sorry. Make sure you go all the way through. See, on this one, I went all the way through to the front, and I don't want that, just in case it does pucker. So I'm going to remove that and just kind of lightly put that pin through, so it's just that the strip and the backing fabric. And see, you can see that it's not through this other side. It might be even Pattern Pool in one of her videos that I saw that, and it makes a lot of sense. Okay. And I went all the way through again. It does take a little bit of practice, the feel of it. There we go. Okay. And that one is a little, almost all the way. Okay, so we got the backing strip attached. Then we're going to flip it over, and you're going to do the same for your top strip. Okay, in her directions, she says you pin well or use a few dabs of fabric glue to attach your back strip. Then you're going to flip over again and line up the top strip, pin well, or add a bit of glue. So it doesn't really matter if your strips, the ends meet up. You can just kind of stick it on there. Just make sure that it's long enough. That makes a lot of sense to me. When I have sewn borders on quilts, I have always tended to match the ends up, and I would get that pucker where I'd have to pick the end out and fix it, and it can be very frustrating. And something as simple as leaving your strips, just your strips or your borders, just even a 1/2 inch longer or a 1/4 inch, whatever works for you. I'm going to pin this just a little there. Okay, and you want to make sure you get these pretty accurate, and I'm going to stagger it a little from the back pin just so I don't get a little pucker again. Like I've said in previous videos, my videos are all going to be videos where we're learning a technique together. That it will be a project that I haven't done before. So if there is mistakes done, I will share those along, and then I'll figure out how to correct them, in hopes that if you were to make the same mistake, you would learn from my mistake and not do it yourself. Quilting is a how would you put it? Quilting is an art that in the Amish community they include mistakes in it because they believe not everyone is perfect, only God. So they will leave mistakes in their quilts. Okay. I hope that's understandable. Hope I didn't butcher that phrase. Okay. So I have both sides pinned. Let me adjust the camera again so you can see as I am sewing this, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have my 1/4 inch foot with the guide on my machine. It has the little guide here, as you can see. Pop that back on. And we are going to sew. I am going to do a scant 1/4 inch. So I am wanting to put just slightly before the guide. So instead of butting my fabric right up against the guide, I am instead going to put it just beyond the edge of this part of the toe. So actually in between the guide and this part. Okay. And that usually works on my machine for a scant 1/4 inch. Some machines are different, so do what works best for you. Okay, so I'm hoping this is going to work. Okay, my threads, needle down. And I have my machine set to a straight stitch at a 2.0 length, and it is set at a 3.5 width. And the width is usually set on my machine. That's usually the recommended setting for my #1 straight stitch. And I just lowered the length to a 2.0 instead of the 2.5. I kind of want my stitches to be a little close. I like that look. Okay. So right before I get to that pin, I am going to pop those out. Please excuse my little 2x4. I have a lamp on a gooseneck mounted to the edge of my table so I can move it freely for my lighting on my machine. I found it on Amazon, and I believe I paid, it was just right around 20 bucks or just under 20 bucks. It's been probably one of the greatest things I've bought for my quilting. Okay. And this next pin. The next one. I think I'm going to have to check my needle to make sure that it is tight. My machine's making a little bit of an odd noise. And the last two. And all hopes that this worked. Let me adjust the camera again. Okay, so we did our seam with a scant 1/4 inch. It might be just a bit less than a 1/4 inch and more than 1/8 of an inch, but that's okay. I can work with that. In her directions, she says to then fold over the backing strip, and you can either finger press it like so. And I really like that. I can work with that, definitely. You can see that there when it is folded over. I think I have just a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, but that's okay. I think it's going to work out pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to actually press this open just so it will lay flat. I really like this mini iron. I received it as a Mother's Day gift from my husband. I talked about it in a previous video. I had been looking at them on Amazon. I'm sorry, I was completely out of frame again. Let me lift us up just a little there. Okay, I hope you can see that. So I've just pressed it. I am really lucky. I have a husband that encourages me to do my quilting and my sewing. He actually even helps me pick out patterns. He helps me pick out fabric. He has a really good eye for fabric. He actually helped pick out fabrics for this quilt. Okay, so we are not yet going to press the top seam over. According to her directions and my notes, that you trim your ends. I'm not going to do that yet until I get my edges. We'll see. I might. So then she says that you're going to add your new block with the right sides facing. So the right side and then the right side of the next block, we are going to have them facing. And you're going to make sure that you match up your edges of your block. And let me see how she did that, because this does not look right. So add the new block with your right sides facing. Flip the top over and align the top strip with the raw edges of the new block. Flip over the top. Flip top over and align the top strip with the raw edges of the new block. I think that means that we do it this way. Oh, sorry. Learning. We're both learning. that means I think we do it this way. No. Okay, I'm not sure how we're going to do that. My brain is not quite grasping for some reason, so I need to... I am going to refer to the video because I am lost. I don't know. I am missing a step somewhere. I missed it in my directions. Give me a moment and I will be right back. Okay, so I figured it out. What you're going to do, instead of pressing your back seam open, you're going to, or your back seam and pressing it, you're going to take your front strip and press it down. You could either finger press it or with your iron. I went ahead and did that. Then you're going to take your second block and you're going to have right side up. You're going to take your new block, or your block that you already put your strips on, and you're going to flip it over so your right sides are facing. And this is definitely where the trimming the ends came in, but that's okay. I'm not going to do that yet. So she said, take the raw edge of the top strip and you're going to line it up with the edge. And I think I'm going to go ahead and trim that just so it does make it a wee bit easier. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to go ahead and trim that edge off. We'll try it the way she. So that is trimmed off. Toss that aside. And we're going to take the raw edge of the top strip and you're going to line it up with the raw edge of the new block. Make sure your edges are lined up. I was confusing myself on the last time on the other part because the matching the right sides together was throwing me off. I didn't get it in my brain, and I'm a visual learner, so okay. So referring back to her video really did help me there. I'm just going to put a pin here just to kind of hold that. And my pressing mat is in the way. I'll move that aside. Okay. And again, it is a little hard to see. I have definitely learned that quilting with black fabric can put a strain on your eyes. So if you have never quilted with black fabric before, the brighter light you use, the better. I'm actually filming tonight. It's about almost going on 11:30 p.m. I am a night owl. But usually I try to film during the day so I get the natural lighting, and I just did a little mistake there. As you can see, I did not close my blade. I'm usually really good about closing it, but there's another little learning tip for anybody else. Make sure that when you use your rotary cutter, close your blade so it is locked out of the way. If you're a new sewer, you'll learn that a nasty cut with a rotary cutter can be really, really bad. I see a lot of it on the Facebook quilting groups I belong to, of ladies showing bandaged fingers because they slice their fingers almost off with the tips of their fingers off with the rotary cutter. So always be sure to close your rotary cutter. That was really bad of me. Okay, so then what we're going to do, get back on track here, is we're going to take this back to the machine, and we are again going to do a 1/4 inch. I did a scant quarter. I think I'm going to go ahead and do a full quarter. We will see. Let me adjust the camera and I will be right back. Okay, so we're now going to sew this with a 1/4 inch seam, and it looks like I'm actually going to be okay, because one of her tips in the video was that if your foot butts up right against this part of your first block, if your edge of the foot lines right up with that, you will ensure to have your seams will match. I hope that makes sense the way I'm saying that. But mine, at this point, I am lining this edge right up to the guide on my foot, and it's butting up perfectly. So hopefully my machine is just a little bit different than hers. That's all part of quilting. You kind of like learn as you go along of what's going to work for you and what's not. But that seems to be the scant 1/4 inch, and this one seems to be working. Okay, so I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to sew a few stitches and then back to lock that. Okay, I'm going to move that pin and that pin. And like I said earlier, all my videos are going to be based on me learning this with you as we go along. This is my very first time doing a quilt as you go. This is going to be a king size quilt, and my room is, my desk is based on a dining table that is 3 foot by 5 foot. So that is basically all the room I have to work on a quilt. Sewing on a domestic machine on making a king size quilt is a job in itself. So definitely doing this king size quilt that I want to have finish at 110 inches square is definitely going to be easier this way. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. I keep getting off track. so far we're looking good. Okay, let me adjust the camera again and I will show you our next step. Okay, adjust just a little bit better there. Raise up some more. Okay, so our next step is we open up and our front of the blocks are joined together and looks really good. I think I will adjust it a little bit, so it is definitely a 1/4 inch seams sewn on each one. This one's just a little bit off, but that's okay. Since it is black on black, it looks pretty good. I am sorry you can't see that really well. Let me stand up and show you this a little bit better. There. And if you notice my fabrics, the blacks are just a little bit off on color. And the reason why that is my black fabrics are bought from the same place, but the black I used for the blocks is approximately maybe 5 years older than this one. That is definitely where they say buying your fabrics all at the same time comes in to play, because you can definitely see the different colors. But that's okay with me. If I was making this for somebody else, I would definitely ensure that all my fabrics are of the same shade, so where my blacks would be the same. But this is for myself, and it is a learning curve. So I would highly recommend that if you're making it for somebody else, definitely keep that in mind. If you're not worried about it, okay. Okay, so what our next step is we're going to fold over, and you're going to kind of like spread it out a little bit. Let me get my... I keep a sticky lint brush on hand, and as you can see, it helps pick up all your threads and any lint that you may have. Being that this is black, it is really showing the lint. So you can see all my lint on there, and I just give it a once over, and it looks much better. Not perfect, but better. Okay, so our next step is we're going to kind of like nest those two edges together, and let me trim my threads so they're not all ratty. And please excuse my head and frame there. I'm going to flip this over and in her directions it says to take your backing seam right over the top, and you can either do a pretty whip stitch or a decorative stitch and sew it down if you want to make that part of the art of the quilt, or you can like I said, do the hand whip stitch, or you can take it right to your machine and sew a 1/8 of an inch right along the edge. And I think that is how I'm going to do it. I do not like doing a lot of hand sewing unless it's actually hand quilting. So I am going to put my wool pressing mat underneath here, and I am going to press this down. Just like so. And it's not perfect, but I am happy with it. For a first time go around, it's not bad at all. As I progress in the quilt, I know it will get a little bit better, which again I am fine with. Okay, so I am going to roll this side so I can take it to the machine and top stitch this down. She also recommended that you do a matching one, almost like a mirror image, how the side of a seam of jeans is, just for a finished look. We will see how that turns out when I get that one sewn. So again, give me just a minute to adjust the camera. Okay, so I have went ahead and pinned this top strip down. I found that when I was moving it to the machine, it was separating the two blocks a little too much underneath. So I just pinned that down so they are together underneath there, like so. Pin that back on. And I have also put I am not sure what this foot is called. Maybe, whoops. Where did it go? Maybe it is an overlock foot. I am not sure. I will look at that and I will let you know. Actually, I have my sewing manual right here. So that foot is it is a G, so it is called an overcasting foot, and that is what that looks like here. And you'll see that it has this little bar in the middle, and I think this is typically used for when you sew knit fabric. Let me just check. Okay, so not on that page. And we will find it. N R A. Okay, G is used for overcasting on thick fabrics. So it is typically used for like a zigzag stitch on thick fabrics. Overcasting on thin to medium fabrics, you use this stitch, and then you can use this stitch. But the reason why I'm using it is because I will set it to my number 1 stitch, but I'm able to line up the edge of the strip. Let me show you. So the edge of the strip that we're going to sew right here will line up right with that. I can like right up against the edge there. I'm sorry, that is hard to see. and my needle will just be to the left of this bar. So it'll let me get the edge of the strip with a nice close edge right there. I hope that makes sense. So I am going to pop this back on. Trial and error. If it doesn't work, we will... So I'm grabbing my top thread with my tweezers and just sticking it through the foot. And let's make sure that this is rolled back up. We are definitely learning as we go on this one tonight. Okay, so we'll put that right back under there. Right along that edge, and I have that bar lined up right along there. If you would like me to show you this in another video closer up, please let me know. Like I said, we're just kind of learning, but we'll see if this works first. Okay, so I'm going to grab my threads, and I am going to lock that. You don't have to lock it if you don't want to. It's going to be some time before I get to the next blocks that I join. So I am doing a lock stitch so the stitches don't come out of my edges. So far it is looking good. My pieces are lined up great. I'm sure some of you may have already figured out this little trick that I'm using this overcasting foot for. I'm actually really liking it for the 1/8 inch the seam. It's just doing a nice clean seam, straight seam down the edge of the strip. Whoops. Don't do what I just did and get your hand in there. Boy, I look funny today doing this. I haven't been feeling very good, so that is why these videos are kind of far apart from each other. The previous one to this one, I get migraine headaches, and also our pollen count is extremely high, and it's been so windy here in New Mexico right now that my allergies are just killing me. I've actually been in bed sick today just because the headache's been killing me. I ate dinner and I felt a bit better, and I felt like sewing. And since I had the sewing mojo, those of you who know, you know what that is. You'll understand that sometimes you just don't have it. So when you do get that mojo to work, you work when you have it. We are almost to the end. And again, I am going to do a lock stitch on this. we will see how that looks. I'm actually very pleased with that. This is the seam right here. Let me see if I can turn on some more lighting. Give me just a moment. Okay, so there we go. There is our blocks joined together. Like I said, I don't think I did a bad job as a first timer. I'm going to trim my little, nip the little piece threads, the sticking out. I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. I know I'll get better as I go along. Not bad for a beginner. At this point, the Sparklers Quilt tutorial is finished. There will be update videos in the future of when I complete a new block. There will be 3 other blocks besides these 2 black and white fabrics that are here. There's going to be 3 other ones. When I progress on those blocks, I will share them with you, and then I will share as I join the strips of the blocks. So there's going to be 5 different blocks assembled, and then 5 rows of 5 blocks if you've watched the previous videos. Thank you so much for sticking around with me on this tutorial. I know it has been a long process. I'm really excited to see other comments. Please definitely let me know what you think, what I can improve on, or if you like things that I did do, like using the overcasting foot. That definitely made this easier. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in future videos, and we will have a new project coming soon when I feel a little bit better. So I will see you soon. Good night. Bye-bye.